Hi, I'm Ben,
And I'm Zach.
and welcome to the Movie Vault. Today we're reviewing the 2001 movie directed by Richard Kelly, Donnie Darko.
It's a movie about Five Nights at Freddy's meets time travel.
Yep, and it grossed $7.5 million to a $4.5 million budget. But DVD sales hit $10 million plus on this, so it's a little bit of a late bloomer. And it has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 86%.
Wow, that's actually pretty high.
Yes, so seeing all of this before us, would you consider this a botch, watch, or top notch?
Ooh, definitely botch / top notch on that borderline, I would say.
But watch slash top notch.
Or not botch, yeah. I'm just tired.
Yeah.
Watch / top notch.
I would
Line.
say top notch. I think that this is a really important movie to independent films, especially. So it's a very interesting success story, but I'm sure we'll get into that later.
I'm sure of that too.
And so now we will get into the plot, which we will definitely not butcher, and we will definitely explain to the fullest of.
Yeah, it's a pretty straightforward plot, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, Ben, go.
All right. So Donnie is Donnie Darko. We are introduced to him, and he is a young teen who is a little bit troubled. And one day, a jet engine falls into his bedroom. But fortunately, before the jet engine fell into his bedroom, he was brought away from his room by his friend, who is this guy who comes into his imagination or something, named Frank. And Frank tells him, brings him out of the house, and then the jet engine crashes into his bedroom.
So Frank basically saves his life, but to reiterate that Frank is this big bunny.
Bunny that has a very weird, scary-looking face.
Yes.
So after this, there's a lot of different storylines going on at once, so it's hard to exactly put a specific order on them. But Donnie goes to school and we see his interactions with teachers, which seem to be somewhat strained, especially with Miss Farmer, who is the health class teacher. They get into a verbal disagreement at one point. He seems to have this interesting relationship with the English teacher, who ends up getting fired because her work is viewed as inappropriate. But Donnie also ends up doing more things for Frank, such as flooding the school,
Burning a building down.
burning down a house, and eventually
Merging timelines,
merging
which will
timelines.
be revealed.
Yes.
So, by the way, you're probably realizing now, it was me. I was being sarcastic when I said this is a straightforward plot. We had to watch an explanation video after
this movie, and this is the second time I've watched it, and I still needed the explanation movie to kind of get what was going on in some of it. But I think it's best to go character by character in this movie and kind of talk about the different characters' roles. So we talk about Donnie, and so Donnie goes through. He follows Frank's commands. And then he meets this girl Gretchen, who he falls in love with, sort of, and but after a Halloween party, Gretchen is run over by a car who happens to be driven by Frank, who is the bunny, but this is actually real Frank, not Frank who is coming into his imagination and telling him what to do.
So then the tensions kind of rise as Donnie sees all these different signs throughout his life pointing to a time limit that was written on his arm that night when the turbine.
Yes, and that time is supposed to be when the world ends. And there's other characters in this movie, such as his parents, who kind of do things to move along the plot, and then Jim Cunningham is a motivational speaker
who ends up not being a great guy.
Who ends up being involved in some very illegal and messed up activities. And but Miss Farmer is so attached to the idea that this person can bring people out of fear and into love that she is willing to defend somebody who is pretty clearly a very evil person. Yeah. We'll just put it that way.
Then from the girlfriend's perspective, what's her name again?
Gretchen.
From Gretchen's perspective, she comes from a bad background. Her stepdad stabbed her mom 4 times and went on the run. So then they moved and changed their names, and they became new students at the same school that Donnie goes to, where these teachers are. And then she meets Donnie, kind of likes him. They They start dating and stuff, and then she gets run over by a car and killed.
Yes. And and we also see so Drew Barrymore plays Karen Pomeroy, who's the English teacher, and she has kind of a weird. I don't even know exactly what her role
We'll
is.
talk about her acting,
And
but yeah.
and then Professor Kenneth Monatoff, played by Noah Weil, is helps Donnie understand some of the things with time travel, because he sort of starts to understand that what he's experiencing isn't just a psychological issue in his head, like his psychologist seems to think it is, but is actually that he needs to go about fixing in the universe. And this leads him to Roberta Sparrow, who wrote a book titled Philosophy of
Time travel.
Time Travel, and which his sister Elizabeth asked what philosophy has anything to do with time travel, but apparently it does in this movie.
And that's actually a real book in real life, written by a real person named Roberta Sparrow.
Yes. Although I was reading in Wikipedia that it appears the book was released with the director's cut of the VHS. So
Oh,
I'm
really?
not sure.
So it might not be real.
So I don't know whether it's real. Because it says the director cut includes in text of the in-universe book Philosophy of Time Travel, written by Roberta Sparrow. But it doesn't really say who actually wrote it, whether Roberta Sparrow did or not. So that's kind of an odd thing. But you can actually go read the book, and it supposedly helps you understand some of the things. Because there's things Donnie can see at some points in the movie, like people are pulled to do things. So this is a predestined tangential universe where people are predestined to do things, and he has the power to see where they're going, like a few seconds ahead. So it has these blurred lines that come from their body, and he can even see his own, which is kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also just some interesting weird side characters like Charita Chen, who is, I don't really understand what her point in the entire movie is, because she mostly just gets made fun of the entire movie.
Poor girl.
And I think it's revealed at the end that she had a crush on Donnie or something, but there's not really a lot of resolution with her. And then Seth Rogen actually plays one of the bullies in this movie, and this is like his first big role in a movie. So that's kind of weird that this is where like Seth Rogen like got his start.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting. It's such a weird, out there, outlandish movie for Seth Rogen to become kind of a name from.
Ashley Tisdale was in this too.
What? Who was she?
She was Kim. I'm assuming that's one of those girls who was like at the bus stop.
Oh, yeah, one of the little ones. No, she was probably one of those younger girls that was dancing.
Yeah, probably. Because
Yeah.
there's also this younger girls dance group called Sparkle Motion that Miss Farmer is a part of.
Yeah.
And there's this really funny line where she's talking to Donnie's mom, who her daughter Samantha is also in the group, and she's like, "I really doubt your devotion to Sparkle Motion," and yeah.
And she doubted correctly.
She doubted correctly. She saw Sparkle Motion as being a lot more important.
So,
But what you'll understand from our plot summary is that this movie is somewhat complicated and also incorporates a lot of different character storylines to drive along.
What is the runtime?
The main plot?
It's like an hour and 40.
Hour and 40 hours.
Because it's a lot to unpack in this movie. There's a lot of stuff in this movie, and
what we haven't gotten into is the like theory of what the actual movie means.
yes. So, but we didn't finish. So after Gretchen gets run over by the car, it's the person that ran over her with the car was Frank, the human Frank, because he takes off the bunny costume and it's a human Frank. Donnie Darko gets mad, shoots Frank in the eye, runs away, takes Gretchen's dead body to the end of the world, and then waits for the end of time, and then the clouds and everything converge. There's a whole big portal in the sky, and then the universe is saved somehow. You don't even realize it, and then Donnie Darko dies because a plane engine falls on him. And you have no idea what happens.
Yes, and then it goes backwards in time to show that he died in the primary universe, even though we've been in the tangential universe the whole movie. So, like, actually rewinds.
Yeah.
And then there's this, I think they use the song Mad World. I don't think it might be, is it the version by Tears for Fears? I don't exactly know which version of the song it was, but I don't think that's super important.
Yeah. So, basically, this entire movie, after watching all of our theory videos, it's about a tangential universe and a regular universe. And it starts off at the beginning of the regular universe, and then something happens. There's two of the same exact jet engines fall into one
Well,
universe.
actually, what happens is one jet engine falls into the tangential universes, so then there are two of the exact same jet engines in that universe because the plane is somewhere else from the other, but they're the exact same jet engine. So that messes up the stability of the tangential universe. If the tangential universe collapses because of this, then the main universe will be sucked into a black hole that's caused by the tangential universe collapsing in on itself. So that's why Donnie has to save the world. So when they say the world is ending, when Frank tells him the world is ending, he isn't lying. The world, both the tangential universe and the primary universe will end if he doesn't get the jet engines back together. So to accomplish this, there are influencers who are both conscious manipulators and unconscious manipulators. Conscious manipulators are dead, so Frank is dead, or the version of Frank that is dead is manipulating him in a very conscious way to do certain things, such as burn down the house or flood the school. And then unconscious Frank is alive at the end when he gets shot, and that's also an important thing because if Frank doesn't die, then there can't be a conscious Frank to lead him through the rest of the movie.
It's like a time loop. So Frank causes his own death, and that death causes him to have the power to cause his own death.
Yes. And it was also pointed out that Gretchen is a dead manipulator, which I don't exactly understand how that...
Could she be
So
Sparrow?
So Gretchen dies at the end, which gives her the ability to be a dead influencer throughout the whole thing, I think. But that's a little bit more confusing because Frank comes in like a vision-like way, where Gretchen is like more of a real-life person when she interacts with Donnie. And then her parents and some of the teachers and people are like subconsciously manipulating him to do certain things.
And then when he merges these two timelines by getting he gets like the power to combine the two timelines again, and he uses this power to send the jet engine back into the other universe. And then the tangent universe disappears, and it's just one primary timeline now. And then it's all over. He goes to bed where he should be. This time, Frank's not there as a dead influencer to pull him away from his own death. And he's laughing. He's just laughing in his bed. Nobody really knows why, but he is. And then the jet engine falls on him, and he dies.
Yes.
But then everybody else remembers that tangential.
They remember some parts of the tangential universe.
Like they have a faint memory of it, except for Gretchen.
And I think that's because she was a dead influencer in the tangential universe.
But
that's just a theory. I don't really know that for sure.
But even Frank had sort of a memory because he was rubbing his eye.
Yes.
And he got shot in the eye.
And some of the other teachers and Jim Cunningham also had memories from the tangential universe.
I will say this is very fascinating. I would actually say this is top notch. You should probably go watch this.
Yes, just because of all that they tried to accomplish, this is probably one of the more ambitious films that I've ever watched. And we'll get into whether we think that they were able to hit on like every ambition. But yeah, so just by the plot explanation, you can probably tell. And if you've watched this, you already know that this movie is kind of confusing. But given a little bit of research and stuff, you can kind of start to pull things together. So the quote of the movie, I'll read Donnie and you can read Frank.
Okay.
So Donnie says, "Why are you wearing that stupid bunny suit?"
I turn around and look at Donnie and I say, "Why are you wearing that stupid man suit?" That's definitely, you got to know the context.
You got to know the
context.
context.
You should probably go watch it.
But Donnie and Frank, I like this because Frank is at the start seems to be kind of like a scary character, but as Donnie starts to see him more, he starts getting more comfortable with the idea of Frank visiting him and more aggressive in his talking, his relationship.
Donnie accepted that he's going to serve Frank for the rest of his existence.
Right, because he said Frank saved his life, so he's like, I've got to listen to this guy. What are your favorite scenes of the movie?
I have a few. So there were a lot of weird, wacky scenes, like the first time when you see those force things that go in front of people that like predicts where they're gonna walk.
Yeah.
I can't explain that in a podcast. Watch the movie or watch a YouTube clip of it. The force movers that predict where people are gonna walk in Donnie Darko. That was pretty cool the first time he experiences that. Another, like, anything with Frank in it was really good. Really
Yeah,
good.
that's true.
Frank was a very good character because like he's not just like this big scary monster that haunts the movie. He's actually like a real character trying to accomplish something, and he's only scary because you don't know why he's doing it or what he's doing.
Yeah, and he has the most ridiculous looking evil costume. Like, I don't know how they came up with this bunny costume, but it is amazing.
But he's also a human, but he's a dead human.
Yes. So when he pulls off his mask for the first time, that's like a really cool scene, especially because I knew this time why his eye was bloody, but the first time I was like, why is his eye bloody? And even Donnie asked that, and he says, "You already know," which I don't exactly understand why he said that, but according to Frank, he should already know the cause
Yeah,
of that.
another note that I want to say is like Donnie seems to be getting like crazier and crazier throughout this movie. So like without watching the theory videos, I thought that he was just getting more and more schizophrenic, and I thought that he was just becoming more and more mentally unstable. But really, he's just learning more and more about time travel, and he's kind of just becoming like more towards omniscient in a sense, to where he's like he knows more than everyone else. So he's not crazy. He's just like out there.
Yes, and
But you think he's going crazy.
The thing is, they
Like,
do
you
a
actually-
good job of leading you to believe that he is going to do something that he's not going to do. They have the force movers bring him to his parents' closet where he sees a gun. Now, the gun is used at the end of the movie when he shoots Frank, but you see him grab the gun, and then you instantly see him at the bus stop. That's a weird scene. You're like, what is he going to do with the gun? And that doesn't end up happening in the way that you might first perceive it to be. So there is a good uses of misdirection in this movie. I have to say, like, as far as favorite scenes, I like a lot of the scenes that utilize music. Because I love the soundtrack, and so anytime that they're able to like kind of like the opening scene's good, the closing scene where he is fighting and then he ends up shooting Frank is a pretty amazing scene. And although I don't exactly understand why the bullies are robbing the house, they're just kind of there, I guess, to move the plot
Yeah, why
along.
were they there to like
Yeah,
try to kill them too?
yeah. Though they weren't trying to kill them, they were just there to. I think, presuming they were trying to like burgle the house or something, and then they happened upon
Burgle
them.
the house.
Burgle.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did think that. I don't know why I didn't write that down.
And then there's a lot of really funny scenes with the teachers. Like actually the scene that Donnie confronts Jim Cunningham and basically calls him out, and then he gets in an altercation with his teacher earlier over what, like, because he thinks it's ridiculous that she's reducing everything down to fear and love, which is ridiculous. I mean, he is right that
Teacher got on my
there's a
nerves.
whole spectrum of human emotions, and she's trying to reduce everything to fear and love. It is, of course, ridiculous, and I remember that really sticking out to me the first time I watched the movie. I was like, oh, that's so true. Like, life is a lot more complicated than like an XY, like, or not even an XY, just an X plane that is only one direction, like a two-dimensional line. It's a lot more complicated than that.
Yeah, it's fourth dimension. This movie explains that.
Yes. So, but not everyone maybe has the same opinions, and that's why we read an outsider review that is always negative every single week, because
You can always be negative. You can always be a pessimist.
you can always be a pessimist. So, Todd McCarthy of Variety says, Donnie Darko has plenty of problems, but most stem from a young filmmaker overswinging for his first time up to the plate and hitting a deep fly out rather than a home run. So a fly out. So like this is it gets almost to the fence, but somebody catches it. You might be.
I disagree.
I disagree.
This is a good first movie, like really good.
This is almost like the
reminds me
best. Might be one of the best first movies you could. I mean, maybe we'll talk about.
Maybe Jordan Peele would be better.
We can talk about who else we think had really good.
Jordan
first
Peele
movies.
did Get Out for first.
Quentin Tarantino did Reservoir Dogs for his first film.
Oh, okay. So let's just.
So we'll talk. There might be. I can't really think of other people right now, but maybe we'll talk about that later.
But here's the thing. I think that this is like such a complicated movie, almost like a Christopher Nolan movie. A little bit less, not pragmatic. A little bit less like a formula. Because this movie is kind of like destructive and like leads to a conclusive ending, but Christopher Nolan's movie would probably have a few more twists than this. But it feels like a Christopher Nolan movie because you're always thinking and you don't know what's going on, and even at the end you gotta like, you gotta like finally understand it right at the very, very, very end.
Where Nolan and Richard Kelly, I think, diverge is that I feel like the characters in this movie feel a lot more like it feels like you're in a normal movie that's about school for half of the movie.
That's true. Where Christopher Nolan movies, most people are like super serious and really involved in the
Yeah,
plot.
and the jokes in this movie are actually very actually funny in a lot of scenes, and they hit kind of this like realistic dialogue in some parts. I'm not saying the whole movie has entirely realistic dialogue, but that something that Nolan can sometimes hit a little bit of humor, but most of the time his plots definitely are like just revolve around a serious thing going on, and they can feel a little bit like you're in a Lincoln commercial the whole time, like I always say about Christopher Nolan.
That's true.
Okay, so let's get to our scores.
Scores.
Not keep people waiting.
Score like our yes, ratings, scores.
Yes.
Gotcha. I thought you
So,
meant specifically.
we start out with sentiment every time. What did you give this sentimentally?
I gave this a 7. I really liked it.
I gave this a 9.
Woo!
And I almost wanted to give it a 10, but I feel like that should be reserved for the very few and select. So 9. This is definitely up there. I said before it was in my top 10. Still might be in my top 10. Definitely in my top 20 at this current point in my life.
This is probably in my top 20.
Yeah, it's just something that it makes you feel something, like the characters in the movie. Like it's not just that it has an ambitious plot line,
But
it's also
it makes you feel like the themes in the movie. Like the
Yeah.
themes in the movie aren't like intending for you. I mean, maybe they are like subconsciously, but like the themes aren't like forcing you to think of like time and reality and like timelines and like life in general and what's worth searching for and like whether reality is real or who you should trust or like who someone can actually be.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of deep themes in this, like a lot.
Yes, and they even like scratch the surface of like Donnie is a lot of times struggling with the search for God, whether it's worth it, like the like morality, and then he realizes that he kind of admits to like God being a certain force in the universe, but we don't really necessarily understand what he means by that, because he obviously sees that everything is predestined, but he doesn't exactly know who is predestining it and why. And obviously, as a tangential universe, I mean, it's hard to understand exactly what the like ethics or morality of their, or because a tangential universe is purely theoretical, but in this movie, it's like a reality, which is kind of hard to understand. Because tangential universes in theory actually exist, because every decision that is not made or that could be a different decision is like another universe.
Yeah, that's the end game rule.
Right. But we only are in this single timeline, and this is the only timeline that matters because it's the one.
If you think
that
about it, if you're
exists.
thinking about it like timeline, like if you're thinking about like timeline wise, it's the exact same as Endgame.
Yes.
Timeline wise, I mean, obviously there are more implications in Endgame because like Cap coming back as an old man, that kind of like messed things up a little
Yeah.
bit. But like ignoring that, and ignoring Cap going back to Return of the Stones, like there's a regular timeline, they have to diverge and get a new timeline, and then they bring that timeline back to the original timeline.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of comparisons to be made. Although I would say that Endgame is as ambitious as Donnie Darko is. Endgame was probably more ambitious.
Yeah, like just because it's the grand scale of it.
Yes.
It's nothing has been made on that grand scale.
It might not actually be as complex as this movie, like
No, not at
just
all.
as a singular movie, but in
You
terms
can understand
of ambition.
if you've never seen a Marvel movie and you watch Endgame, you understand it.
Yeah.
Kind of. Like you'll understand like, oh, that's the bad guy. Oh, that's
you
where it's
might
going.
have to watch a video after, but you probably wouldn't have to.
Yeah, you'd have to watch a video to like learn more about it, you know? But you'll understand what's happening. In Donnie Darko, you don't understand what's happening even if you like read the book before.
Yeah, even if you read the philosophy of space and time,
Travel.
the philosophy of time travel. All right, so message. We kind of, I think we actually
forgot we're doing ratings.
We kind of talked about this actually while we were talking about sentiment.
So, okay. I'm changing it right now. I'm giving this an 8.
Because I gave it an 8 too. Because like we talked about, it hits on so many deep themes.
I gave it a 6 at first, but I gave it an 8 just because I remembered everything. So, yeah, I just changed my final score too. So, yeah. everything that's said, like it gets really dark. It talks about life, death, reality, what's real, what's going on, what do we trust, who someone can truly be, like if you can't trust them, stuff like that. Energy, like what kind of different belief systems there are, what different like it even talked about like the idea that in some schools like teachers can't talk about like any religion or anything
Or
like
at
that.
least specifically God in relation to science, I
Yeah.
think was the issue. One teacher mentioned like I can't keep talking about this because I could get fired, and his girlfriend or wife actually got fired because of one of the books that she used in class. So it was also dealing with like how much freedom do we give teachers and what they teach to students, and how much power do like one parent have over an entire school in terms of influencing what art is taught in classes. And this is okay. This is this very strange school, too, because
Yeah.
like it looks like a private school, but like the way it was run, I wasn't sure whether it was a private
They
school.
have
because
uniforms.
They have uniforms, but everyone in the town, it seemed like, went to the school.
Yeah, and then they're like
Which
putting a
wouldn't-
knife against their neck in the bathroom.
Yeah.
That one of the bullies was.
So how realistic the school was, probably not very. But and this is in Middlesex, Virginia, which is supposed to be
That's what it's called.
yes. I think it's supposed to be kind of a like upper middle class like area that's pretty nice. The Donnie Darko's sister Elizabeth gets accepted into Harvard, so like high academics. And then like his younger sister is in Sparkle Motion, so they have like I guess athletic or out of school pursuits. Whether it's a really nice prep school or it's just a public school, it's just a weird place. So plot, what would you give plot?
I gave plot an 8 also.
I gave plot a 7.
Okay.
And I think the reason I didn't give it higher was because I feel like anything that you can't explain the plot of the movie without going to watch other things, you have to get a few points taken out. Like it's impressive, but also like good plot writing and good filmmaking would allow for the viewer to understand the film pretty well without having to like do a lot of background research, even though it's cool that he did that.
Yeah, and that's probably preference because I like doing the research after movies and I like having an ambiguous ending sometimes. And I also really like movies that are so complicated that the general audience doesn't get it. So then when you get it or like you do a lot of research to get it, you can like
It just feels satisfying.
yeah, like do you understand
Yeah.
like nobody understands Inception. Nobody does. And you're like, yeah, well, I mean, to be honest, I understood it like the first time I
I hope
watched it.
people understand Inception. It's
Yeah.
not super complicated.
Yeah, I don't know why everybody keeps saying that. Like I've seen it like 5 times, and
I
I think
think-
I understood it the first time.
I think Tenet was a lot more complicated than
Yeah,
Inception.
There was one part in Tenet I didn't get till the very end, but I got Tenet right away.
I guess I got Tenet for the most part. Although I think Zach probably had to explain some of it to me, but you can go back and listen to our Tenet episode if you're wondering.
Yeah, maybe Ben explained it to me. We don't remember because it was backwards and forwards at the same time. So
Yeah. How about cinematography?
cinematography. Let's see. I gave cinematography a 7.
I gave it an 8. I like the like white. This is again like as like lighter colors were brought out in the cinematography. In terms of editing, well, that's probably more style, but there was a lot of like fades, and I guess there wasn't necessarily any like money shots in particular, other than the one shot where he's at the party and the camera kind of flips over, and then he starts to see people's like forces taking them places. That's kind of a cool shot.
Yeah.
That was one that stood out, but. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was good, so I gave it an 8. But
Yeah, I gave cinematography a 7 because same things that you said, and then a lot of the Frank scenes were pretty cool too. Like when he's with the therapist and he's like they're just talking like quietly, and then all of a sudden he goes, I see him," and he's like it shows Frank like right away, and the camera goes back and forth between Frank and Donnie, and he's like bowing down to Frank, and it's really weird and a little creepy and ominous, but it was good shots. So yeah,
yes, definitely some good shots. How about character arcs?
I gave that a 7.
I gave mine a 9.
Ooh.
So I loved the character arcs, I guess. I loved them. I thought they were good.
Yeah, I like that they gave even the non-important characters
I think
arcs.
that's what did it for me, to be honest.
Because it's not even that they don't connect to the plot. It's at the end they reveal that they kind of do connect to the plot because they all pointed him towards his destiny.
Right. They go a little bit more in depth into the characters, like the English teacher and like the motivational speaker, more than you think that they would need to make this plot going. And I think since I value, a lot of times I'm like, well, the main characters had good character arcs, but the side characters didn't really. I feel like this is a movie that has pretty strong character arcs on the side, so that's why I gave it such a high score.
Yep, same thing. All right, originality.
I give it a 10 because I cannot think of any movie that tries to do this exactly how they did it.
10.
Oof. 10 on
I gave it a
original.
9, so I still gave it a high score.
Yeah, so perfectly original. Now, okay, now that I think about it, it might be more like a 9.75. Obviously, still keeping the 10 rounding up because, well, actually, come to think of it though, this movie has to be one of the first movies that actually used 80s retro look. Because think about it, this movie was made in 2001.
Yeah.
And it was dated at like 1988. So that's only like 13 years.
That's
so,
true.
So like Stranger Things now and like some of these Summer of '84, like we were talking about.
And there weren't many
use 80s retro, but they came out way after the 80s. This
Yeah.
movie was only like 13 years after the 80s.
And there weren't many movies or shows about like existentialism yet. Obviously, there was like the existentialism movement back then, the 70s and stuff like that. But it was like it was a movie that kind of was new because it talked about like what is life, what is it going. Obviously, it goes into religions and stuff like that, and like what it means to be alive and to be aware. So.
And it's not completely like surrealist, like movies like 8.5 and Eraserhead that are like barely grounded in reality in the movies.
No,
this movie is supposed to be completely grounded in reality, a science fiction reality, but still a reality that's supposed to make logical sense.
So yeah,
a lot of movies that deal with existentialism deal with this realm that is like not actually supposed to be grounded in reality, and all these strange things happen because they aren't.
Yeah.
The rules aren't the same.
So when I read philosophy last year, and there's two forms of philosophy. Philosophy. Rationalism and empiricism. Empiricism, I think it's empiricism or imperialism. Not imperialism, that's Star Wars.
Yeah.
Empiricism. So empiricism is where you derive things purely from experience, and this is what this movie does. Rationalism is where you take theories and logic and facts and laws and derive things from that. But experience is where empiricism comes, and this movie takes the experiences that you feel, what you can taste and see and touch in real life, and that's the fifth sense, and and the sixth sense. Ooh,
another good movie.
Yeah, but yeah, taking what you can experience in real life and relating it to what the deeper meaning in life would mean from those experiences.
Yes.
So that's definitely a very heavy philosophy, and they relate it to time travel, which is super interesting to me because I love philosophy and I really love time travel.
Yes.
That's why I gave The Plot a higher rating than you, because time travel movies, obviously, I love those anyway.
And Zach has kind of talked a lot about the philosophy of it, but well, actually, I'll skip this for another part because I feel like what I'm going to talk about next, a couple of the other parts could. You could talk about it in that. So how about acting? This movie, for somebody who was a new director, I believe Richard Kelly was around 24 or 25 when he directed this. He got a lot of big names to be in this movie.
That is random.
And a lot of up-and-comers who are now bigger names than they were when they were in this movie. So let's talk about some of these people. So first, Jake Gyllenhaal plays Donnie Darko.
Who is Mysterio nowadays.
Yes, nowadays he's Mysterio. He was in Zodiac, which I've watched. He's in Nightcrawler as a lead movie. I know he's in an Villeneuve film called Prisoner. He's probably one of the most talented actors of today, and this movie was the start of that. And I don't say that lightly. Like, I actually think he's one of the most versatile actors.
That's true.
And then his sister Maggie played Elizabeth. She's most well known probably for being in The Dark Knight.
They're sisters in the movie and in real life.
Yes. the Dark Knight trilogy, 2 of the movies, I believe.
She plays Rachel?
Rachel,
Really?
but not Kate. Not in Batman Begins. Katie Holmes plays Rachel.
Yeah.
But in the Dark Knight, Maggie Gyllenhaal plays Rachel.
So she's the Rachel that dies. That's awesome.
Yes.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. And then we have Patrick Swayze plays Jim Cunningham, and he had a big run of movies in the late 80s, early 90s with I think Roadhouse,
Maybe.
Roadhouse, Dirty Dancing, and Point Break. I believe he was in Roadhouse at least. But I mostly know him from Point Break personally, and I think
You know him personally.
no, not personally, but he was completely amazing in that movie with Keanu Reeves. Definitely, Keanu Reeves was amazing in his own right in that movie, but he was definitely the superior actor in terms of talent. And that year, he also happened to win Sexiest Man Alive in People magazine.
Nice.
Probably had nothing to do with being in that movie. I'm trying to, yeah.
Seth Rogen's in this movie too.
And Seth Rogen got his start in this movie as one of the bullies, which is super random.
It's weird because he wasn't even that great in this movie at all.
No, actually, he was pretty subpar.
And who else is in this movie? Drew Barrymore?
Drew Barrymore was a big part of this movie getting made.
I didn't think she was good in this movie either.
She wasn't. She honestly did not have a great performance, and I really haven't seen her in much else. I actually got her confused with somebody who was in Magnolia, but it's actually just someone who kind of looks like her, not really her. But yeah, it was kind of a weird role, but she must have really saw this movie and thought that it was going to take off, and I guess she was kind of right. Ashley Tisdale also played one of the girls. I'm not exactly sure who. And obviously, she had a much bigger career after this. And then Jason Schwartzman was originally supposed to play Donnie Darko, and he's in like Rushmore. He's in Wes Anderson movies actually mostly.
Fantastic Mr. Fox,
and
etc.
etc. So a lot of big names links to this. But so what do you think about the acting? What's the score?
I give it a 7.
I gave it an 8. It's pretty good, although Drew Barrymore project.
Yeah, I was gonna give it an 8 or 9 actually.
I was mostly thinking about,
but Drew brought it down for me.
I was mostly thinking about
Seth.
Jake Gyllenhaal.
Jake did a good job. He did a good job.
He
of
has
mentally distressed.
so good. He's always had good facial acting, but
I love his eyes. His eyes are very expressive.
Eyes, in every movie, he like uses his eyes in a different way too. He's kind of sleepy, and Nightcrawler, they're like completely open the entire time. It's amazing.
Okay, next category is style.
I'll give it an 8.
7. Good, creepy, ominous,
80s.
bland 80s
and
style.
Weird editing, but it works.
It goes
a lot
with
of fades, a lot of cuts that are like really, like you notice them, like they cut after a strange line and go into somewhere else. Keeps you on your toes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Score.
8.
10.
10.
This is absolutely
2 10s.
Absolutely one of my favorite movie scores of all time. I love this. This movie got me into like an 80s new wave phase because the songs.
I think
the main
Guardians of the
song-
Galaxy would be a
No,
good 80s
I
thing.
definitely like this better as an 80s because this
Wow.
it's new wave. It has Echo and the Bunnymen with the Killing Moon.
Makes
it has
sense. Bunnymen.
the Church with I forget what the Church's song was. Under the Milky Way, yes. And then it has Tears for Fears with Head Over Heels, Notorious by Duran Duran. And these are all like people who are in the new wave post-punk movement. And I got subsequently, after I watched this movie, got into some of those bands like XTC.
I wonder why.
And Ecstasy, and not the drug, the band. And
Good. I'm really glad.
and the Chameleons and some other people that I would have never heard of if I didn't watch this movie.
Yeah.
So I think because of that, I revere the soundtrack a lot higher than other people would.
Okay.
Finally, choreography, which I gave a
6.
7. What 6 seems a little bit more accurate because there wasn't really a lot of
Yeah,
action.
and it's not even that there wasn't a lot. It's just like even some of the action parts, like the car scene, it just felt like a little, just different.
Yes.
It wasn't like needed to be like that,
Yeah.
but it was still good.
So overall, I give it an 84%.
Wow.
Okay,
Is that your highest?
Yes, it's my highest, and I was completely expecting that because I love this movie.
I gave it a 74.
A 74, which is still pretty high, especially for Zach's standards.
That's my second highest, I think.
Or it might be Yeah, I think it's
I think
tied
I got
for
73, 74, and then Up got a 78.
yes. 84 plus 74
I think I actually
divided
enjoyed
by
this
2.
movie more than Up. No, I don't know.
So it's
No,
still
never mind, never mind.
79. Still 79, so still not 80%. So 79% between both of us. All right, we're getting a little long, but we'll try to get through. There's just this movie. I feel like it warrants a long podcast though because there's so much
to talk
so much to talk about. But
we almost jinxed that one.
yes, we also have to talk about things that we don't like though.
Yeah, and we said a few, but okay, Britta moments, stuff that we don't like. Community reference, we've explained it before. It's basically Britta is a character from Community that everybody hates. Even the show hates the character.
Yes.
So they make fun of her, and now we're saying the worst part of this movie is going to be called the Britta moments.
Okay, the whole thing with with Charita or whatever her name was made no sense in the
But I
entire
felt so
movie.
bad for her.
I know. I guess that's the whole point is that you're supposed to feel bad for her, but I feel like she was kind of unnecessary, and she was kind of the butt of jokes that I feel like she didn't really deserve. So
She didn't deserve any of those.
yeah, I mean, and I laughed, but that doesn't mean that
I was
it's-
cracking up the whole time.
but that doesn't mean that it's good.
It's so sad, though.
Yeah, and I think there was some really good one that I had.
I
and
thought the
can't-
bullies weren't needed in the
girl-
story. In the whole,
bullies were kind of obnoxious.
they weren't needed for anything.
No, they weren't. They really weren't.
Seth Rogen's lucky that they kept them in there because that's the only way he got out there.
Sparkle motion was a little weird.
I
I didn't really like that.
There was some weird dancing scenes.
Yeah. And I they were probably trying to make some sort of point with that, but I didn't really like
Dive deep into that.
how they did that. So not a big fan of Drew Barrymore in this movie.
What's the other teacher? I liked him. He was pretty good.
The Professor Monatoff.
Yeah, he was pretty
He
good.
was pretty good. And I think honestly Kitty Farmer, who's played by Beth Grant, she was hilarious.
The mean teacher?
Yes.
She was pretty funny. She did a good job. She embodied that personality perfectly.
Yes.
Or almost perfectly.
But I think that's pretty much it with the Britta moments. It's a good movie, and I think there might have been I keep thinking of this like
The only thing I didn't like about this movie is the bullies. Everything else I actually really liked. That's probably my
Yeah.
only Britta moment.
Stock market. Who we buying stock in?
We're talking about in 2001. Who were we buying stock
Yeah.
in? I am buying stock. I probably wouldn't think of buying stock in Seth Rogen, even though I know he gets big.
Yeah,
now.
I don't think you would. I think you would honestly might even sell stock in Seth Rogen.
Yeah.
Which case you would probably lose, but
Yeah.
his career going forward definitely went a lot further up than this.
Same thing with Drew Barrymore. I probably wouldn't.
Honestly, don't know whether her career got really a lot better though after this.
But you
She's
hear
just-
about her a lot.
She's just pop culture figure because of E.T. and then she's probably decent in some other movies.
So I would probably put so much money into Jake Gyllenhaal and make a lot of money off of that.
Yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal was the clearly to go with.
I
And
would give $793,043.
But who we really got to talk about, I think, in this section is Richard Kelly. Because Richard Kelly was, like I said, he was 24 when he made this movie. And if you look at what else he made after this, he made the movie Domino. Which I've never heard of. He's made Southland Tales and The Box.
Is
So
that
he
it?
made
That's
three
it?
movies after Donnie Darko. Domino was rated 18% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh,
Southland
my
Tales
gosh.
was rated. I don't even know. It's not even listed here what it's rated. So I'll try to find that out. But I don't think any of these.
So he didn't really do well after that, even though I would put a lot of money into him.
Yeah, at the time, I would have said this guy is bound to have a Quentin Tarantino career.
So we would have lost money.
An early risers, but even Quentin Tarantino was in his 30s when his career started to take off, and so you start to wonder: was Richard Kelly too young when he made this movie? And I watched an interview after with him, and he was he even says he thinks that 24 is too young, and somehow he didn't mess up. So obviously there was something very special going on with this very specific plot that he was never able to replicate. And honestly, it's hard when you come out with a really good movie, the first movie that you release, because it's hard to top it. I feel like there's other directors out there who that's happened to.
Yep.
Or
Michael Bay.
Michael Bay. What,
Although
Bad Boys you think is his best movie?
Was that his first movie?
Yeah.
Okay, I recant that.
Yeah, I don't think although I don't think he really got a lot better, to be honest.
I
But
liked Bad Boys. Everybody keeps
Bad
telling
Bo-
me that I gave it a bad rating. They're like, "Oh, I listened to your podcast. You gave that such a bad rating. I love that movie." But
I
it was
think
okay.
honestly it probably is one of his
We
better
just rate
movies.
low.
We rate low, except for when it's Donnie Darko.
And compared to all these movies, I would watch Bad Boys, if not last, second to last, probably. You know?
Oh, of all the movies that we've rated?
Yeah, I'm thinking of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in particular.
In particular, that would be up there for me.
I don't want to spend a lot of time watching that one again.
Yeah, that's true. This movie.
It's a good length. We always
it's a
say,
good length.
Ben and I say an hour and a half is a perfect length for a movie.
Yes, this one was an hour 48, a little bit longer, but if you can fit it,
I'm glad it was
what
longer,
you need
though.
to fit in under 2 hours, you are so that is.
They could have
such a good
easily,
thing.
like nowadays, if someone's making a movie off this plot, like since 3-hour movies are common nowadays, they would have made this a 3-hour
Also,
movie.
I don't think they do have a director's cut for this movie, which I would be interested in watching. I don't exactly know how to get that. I think you might have to buy it on DVD to actually even watch that. But like that might add to understanding the movie, but it might not make for an actual better movie in terms of like the pacing.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
because I think it mostly focuses on more of the nerdy stuff, so that could get in the way of like how snappy the dialogue was and how like the editing and stuff. If you add that in, I think.
Yeah.
But I would have to watch it to know for sure whether that's the case.
Yeah.
Somehow Kevin Smith was also involved in the director's commentary. That's interesting. So yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much everyone. Patrick Swayze, you could have bought stock in him, but unfortunately he passed away in 2009, I believe, which is very sad. But he was, I think he died. Yeah, he died of cancer at the age of 57. Very sad. He was an actor who had an amazing run in the 90s and then had a pretty good rest of his career, this movie being one of them. So it's sad to see people die young, unfortunately, in Hollywood and in acting. We just notice it a lot more because they have the spotlight and it happens. So moving on from the stock market, we don't really have any feedback, I don't think. Do you have anything to report on feedback?
No, I guess not.
So we've talked a lot about this movie. This will probably end up being one of our longer podcasts. Do we have anything like in the the final parts of the movie to kind of pick apart? Do you think it was too confusing with the jet engine thing? I think that's a little.
I
hard
did
to put
not get
together.
the jet engine thing at all. That was but I
And
don't want them to explain
Donnie,
it like that though.
Donnie apparently has powers, so like he at the end of the movie he is like opens the portal to cut the engine off and take it back to the universe. But that's not explained, so that's also kind of a theory because we see him just sitting there watching it, but it doesn't. I don't think it necessarily implies that he does that, so that might just be like some sort of fan theory. I'm sure Richard Kelly has weighed in, but also it's kind of good that this is up for interpretation. Like that makes for an interesting movie when people are like arguing and trying to figure out what happened, and the director might just be like, it's kind of up for your interpretation.
Yeah.
Although in a movie like this, that might not be quite as good because it's supposed to be science fiction.
I would
but-
just say go watch it. Put yourself immersed in this movie. It's definitely a great experience that I had.
Yes. It's worth it. I did not overhype this movie like I may have overhyped Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
He said Donnie Darko in probably every podcast before this. So
yeah, that's true. I honestly, after I watched this movie, the first thing I wanted to do was watch it again, which I didn't do. And
I
so
want to
now
watch
I
it
did
again sometime. I want to watch the director's cut now.
Yeah, and I want to go listen to the Echo and the Bunnymen and the church, and I just like that they used the song by Echo and the Bunnymen because Frank is a bunny, and that
Yeah.
ties into the movie. It's just amazing, like all those things.
All that jazz. All right.
If you're confused and you need more explanation, email us at themovievaultpod@gmail.com or DM us on Instagram at themovievaultpod. We're on Twitter too at movievaultpod. We're working on some other stuff in the future, so
Well, we've
stay
already
tuned.
said that we've been working on our YouTube channel. That hasn't worked out lately, so we're actually going to wait a little bit before we launch that, before we have everything perfectly set up, because we don't want to launch it and do an inadequate job.
Yes.
We want to do our best once we get it. So.
Yes. So we do actually have one full episode recorded. We weren't lying about that, but we just haven't released it yet. We will probably do so at some point when the channel launches, but hopefully, like the quality will be better when the channel launches.
We're gonna be We're gonna be talking with Esteban here soon to set that up. Hopefully this next month. Hopefully.
But I think next week, we are doing Trolls, and there may or may not be a guest, so that's exciting. We'll see whether that works out. If it doesn't, me and Zach will just tackle Trolls ourselves.
Yep.
And
we will tackle Trolls.
We'll put on Justin Timberlake.
We will tackle each troll.
That one song that was like overplayed.
And they will be smushed.
Yes, they will be smushed, and yeah, it'll be a fun episode. A little bit less dense.
A little bit less Darko.
A little bit less Darko, and we won't be doing the sequel to this movie, S Darko, anytime soon because.
And we will not be doing the sequel to Trolls World Tour.
S Darko.
Unless it gets requested.
A 13% on Rotten Tomatoes, so I don't think we're.
What if somebody requests it and we do our generator?
If somebody requests us that we do S Darko, then I guess we might have to do it.
I kind of want to watch S Darko.
Yeah, actually now I kind of do, even though I know it's gonna be completely trash. It's based on Samantha, the younger sister.
Oh, nice. Dang.
Yeah. But with that, I think it's time to close the vault.
Sorry, everyone. But yes. Okay. Would you like me to close it with rigor or with passion or with anger?
With anger. I would like to see some anger.
All right. It is now time to close the vault.